Thank you for joining us today for Managing the Process, Not the Event, part of a larger presentation made by Erica Olsen to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services.
Okay, so let's talk about managing the business process and not the event. Love our chalkboard analogy, so I'm just going to go through what makes up an effective strategic management process. So first of all, of course, we need to have an effective mission. We need to know what we're doing and what we're not doing, what's in and what's out of the box. Okay? We need to know where we are today. What's our current state? We figure out our current state by surveys, data, both empirical and anecdotal, and we pop all of that into a SWOT, which you have in your survey, but I'm sure you guys did that as well. And we decide and put together what our future state needs to look like and where we're trying to go, and why we get up every day and work together for some outcome, right? So once we've got our vision, we need to draw the most direct path. We already talked about this to get there, and that looks like long-term statements that are balanced. So we've already got the balanced scorecard piece going, so we'll talk a little bit about that later, but fundamentally the reason for the balanced part of the balanced scorecard is so you don't develop a strategic plan that is organizationally structured based on a current org structure. That's the logical thing to do. That's what people do. The balanced part of the balanced scorecard gives us a strategy framework to look at the organization this way as opposed to this way. So when we get tripped up on balanced scorecard words, that's what we care about, holistic. So now we've got sort of a holistic set of guideposts that we're calling strategic goals. And we've then mapped the roadmap on an incremental basis. Some of our goals are longer term, our objectives are longer term in nature, some are shorter term in nature, but what are we going to do over the next several years? Maybe it's 5 years or 2 years or 3 years. And then for the short term, how do we actually break that down into bite-sized pieces throughout the organization? How do we operationalize these big ideas that sound great on paper, but actually are supposed to drive us to do some action or project or initiative? So that's where the goal cascading function comes in. An effective strategic planning process not only looks at the long term, but it also cascades and operationalizes the short term, right? And once we have our plan put together, we need to have a commitment from the folks, everybody in this room and everybody in the organization, to hold ourselves accountable through scheduled check-in points. That's my little schedule is on there. We call them strategy review sessions. We might call them something else here, but what visible way are we going to talk about whether or not the needle is moving, and if it's not, why, and if it is, why? So the heartbeat of a strategic management process, once we've got a plan, is talking about the plan and adapting the plan. And that does look like more meetings. And our recommendation, of course, is that it's combined maybe with an existing rhythm of meetings, so we could talk about that. And then we need a dashboard to tell us how we're doing. So that is all of the components of an effective strategic planning process and strategic management process.